Hey everyone, and welcome to the horror room. I'm gonna regret this, but I've decided that I'm gonna be doing some reviews over the next month. Uh, Probably not gonna be the most popular reviews, and I know other people have done reviews of these movies before, so some of these I have a little bit of personal experience with, others like today's topic, I don't have much experience with, but I did a little bit of research before. Um, but let's cut to the chase. When people think of the worst horror director, uh, people sometimes say Rob Zombie or Eli Roth, or maybe you want to go back in time. You want to say Herschel Gordon Lewis, or maybe Ed Wood. Good examples, good examples. Or how about some modern ones? How about Tommy Wiseau? He's not really a horror director, but he makes horrible films. Um, yeah, Neil Breen. Um, but there's one director that stands, I think, at the Mount Everest of bad movies. Now, let me preface this by saying this is not a personal attack on the director himself. Um, but he has set the bar very high when it comes to making bad films. And that person is, of course, Uwe Boll. Or, I don't know. I think it's Uwe Boll. Um, and what started this is, I've seen House of the Dead. I've seen a couple of his movies, actually. Um, and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to review some of his movies. There's some that I haven't seen, some that I have, some that it's been a while. It's been a while. So grab a drink. You're gonna need it. We're talking today about a movie that I hadn't seen, and that is Alone in the Dark. Now, there's a director's cut of this, which has like 2 extra minutes, maybe four. Um, Now I gotta say, I went in the bonus features after the movie, watched a little bit of the behind the scenes. There was music videos. There was an In Flames music video on here, which threw me off. Um, there was also an animatic for one of the scenes in the movie that was better than the actual scene in the movie. So, uh, yeah, I guess. So let's read the back of this just so we get an idea of what the movie's about. Edward Carnby, Christian Slater, is a private investigator specializing in unexplainable supernatural phenomena. His cases delve into the dark corners of the world, searching for truth in the occult remnants of ancient civilizations. Now, the greatest mystery of his past is about to become the most dangerous case he has ever faced. With the help of his ex girlfriend, archaeologist Aileen Cedrak, Tara Reid, and his bitter rival government agent Richard Burke, Stephen Dorff, Edward is just about Edward is about to learn that just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean it cannot kill you. Wow. So, this movie, I literally just watched this like think I got done like 20, 30 minutes ago. Um and it's not the alcohol. Don't blame that. But it is a very, very forgettable movie. And I'll give it credit, or I'll give some credit where credit's due. That I thought House of the Dead was bad, but then I watched this and I was like, wow, like at least House of the Dead keeps your attention somewhat. So I wrote down some notes. I'm gonna try to go over the plots, but the plot was very confusing. Uh, Something to do with an ancient civilization, and they unlocked a door that will combine the light and the dark world. And it wiped their civilization out. Um, But before we get to that, let's talk about Blair Erickson. Is apparently the person who came up with the first draft, which was going to be a little closer to the at least themes of the games, because when this movie came out, the Atari had acquired the rights and they were about to put a game out. I think it came out on the Wii, maybe a couple other systems, maybe PS3. I'm not entirely sure. I do know I studied up before this movie, and I feel stupid because I studied up on the old PC game and the PS1, and neither one of them, I even just watching the videos about those games, nothing to do with what was involved with this movie. I was thinking like, oh, we're gonna be in like H.P. Lovecraft style, Lovecraftian stuff, with pirate ghosts and zombie slaves and a tree that shoots fire. None of that happens in the movie. But anyways, Blair Erickson came up with the first draft of the film, and I should have wrote down what his draft was, but it did have more of a a spooky vibe. But Uwe Boll suggested through emails that they change it from a thriller to an action film. Erickson stated his disgust and spoke negatively on his working relationship with Boll. I can believe it. Literally, not even 10 minutes into the movie, we get bullet time. And if you're not familiar with what bullet time is, The Matrix popularized bullet time, which is where you get a slowed down action. Usually, it's a bullet. The camera follows the bullet and it swirls around the camera. This has been done to death so much that it's almost become a parody of itself. And in this movie, it's no different. So Christian Slater's character, which is Edward Carnby, which is the only name that appears in the games and this movie, to my knowledge, anyways. He's our hero, Christian Slater. So there's like this artifact that's being brought back in like a coffin on a boat, and the villain, who is named Professor Lionel Hudgens, sorry, he gets like thrown in they call it the brig or whatever, on the ship, whatever. They throw him in a cell, basically. I don't know why. Like I said, I watched this movie not too long ago, and it's really hard to keep track. Not because of the drink, just the bad writing. But needless to say, when he comes out on the boat, everyone's dead. And there's like a gold-lined coffin, and it's like missing something. Or the guy finds a little piece, but he needs another piece, so he sends his helper, James Pinkerton. James Pinkerton. That's a good villain name. After he sends him after Edward, we're just going to call him Ed, or Christian Slater. He says, like, get the artifact and kill him. So Christian Slater gets off at the airport, and he gets in a cab. And the cab driver, I said, hey, that guy looks familiar. It was none other than Brendan Fletcher. Now, if you don't know who that is by the name, he was in Freddy vs. Jason as Will's friend in the hospital where they were being kept. He's the one who stuck his ass on the window and was like, woo! And he also gets killed later in the stupid message, Freddy's back. So yeah, it was kind of cool to see him, but he's like, Christian Slater's like, hey, that cab's been following us. He's like, you want me to lose him? Sure, go ahead. So he's like trying to lose him. And it's a high-speed chase. And we're not even 10 minutes into the movie, by the way. Some of that boat stuff happened later, but, just to give some context as much as I can. So this car is like ramming him, and he's like, I'm going to get fired. My boss is going to kill me. My insurance won't cover this. And he's like, well, turn into this market. And then, of course, he turns, and there's fruit and boxes everywhere. and he gets his car rammed, and Christian Slater gets out of the cab, and he's like, stay down! And he just jumps out of the way while this guy speeds forward and crashes his car into the... You okay? I don't know why I'm making him sound like Batman from the Batman YouTube videos. He's sleeping. So yeah, then this guy with the baldest head and these razor thin glasses is like chasing him, and it's so ridiculous because he's almost like foaming at the mouth. He's like chasing Christian Slater, and they come to what literally looks like an ice factory where there's just slabs of ice everywhere. Now, you see later on that it's part of a fish market, but it just kind of looked weird. So this guy's like throwing Christian Slater through windows and chasing him down. They're fighting and punching. And they get to this ice factory area, and Christian Slater just pulls out a gun and shoots this dude in broad daylight around tons of people. And Christian Slater's like this part of this group called 713 or something like that, and a military operation. But he just shoots this guy, and this guy just looks down like, you ruined my favorite shirt! Like Mandy with Nicolas Cage. You ruined my shirt! Or wait, was it pants? I can't remember. So then he shoots him a couple more times and kills him. Or no, he doesn't kill him. He doesn't kill him. I think he falls or he gets pushed, and then he's like lands on spikes. Like there's a random spike pit near the fish. I don't know. It's like we're not even that far into the movie, and it's already getting confusing. Then we cut to the museum where Tara Reid is like studying the 10 Commandments or something. She gets a phone call from the professor, and he's like, don't touch anything. I'll be there soon. I've got to examine it. And she's like, I'm an archaeologist. I don't know why I gave her a British accent. She doesn't have one in that movie. So yeah. So just based off the first couple moments in this movie, the first thing that jumped into my mind was like, this is like a shitty version of Constantine. You have talk about light and dark. You have this, X special group guy, which I know in Constantine is a little different. You have these CGI demons. But all that made me want to do is watch Constantine, because that's a good movie. That's a great movie. I still wish we had a second one. So yeah, later on, I'm jumping all around because like there's only certain things I remember in this movie. Later on, Edward, Christian Slater, he goes to talk to his buddy Fish. Fish. That's a great friend name. Who works in a morgue. He's a medical examiner, something. And he cuts into this Pinkerton dude, and he's like, oh, look what we got here. And there's like a little centipede thing on his spine that's been severed in half. I'm assuming from the spike that he fell through. And he's like, well, looks like this was what was controlling him. And there's this backstory that Christian Slater and this guy and a bunch of other people were all at this orphanage, and they were being experimented on, I think by the 713 group. I don't know. It's so fucking confusing. But basically, me and my girlfriend were watching this, and like there's a scene where like something happens, and like all these grown-up orphans, they just kind of like stop what they're doing and they just start walking, and there's literally a scene of someone walking across like front lawns at night, and I said, oh, it's weapons. Uwe Boll made weapons first. There you have it. I love that. You get to hear it. So yeah, then Christian Slater goes back to his abandoned museum house. I don't know. There's like something going on there, and he's like, I gotta sleep in my jeans. And then Tara Reid shows up, and they have like this very badly lit sex scene that's like the most unsexy. I think it was like 30 seconds long. Thanks. Yeah, 30 seconds, no nudity either. Like, what was the point? But anyways, so they go back to the museum, and she's like showing him, like, look at all these ancient symbols and stuff. We can use our computer to pinpoint the archaeology plus astrology, and it shows it right on the computer. Yeah, something like that. And then the Xenos, is what they're called, attack the museum, and they can turn invisible like predators. So you have these things that nest smaller creatures in you, and they can turn invisible. Okay, that original idea there. I don't know if Xenos are in the Alone in the Dark universe, but from what I've seen, just in the couple game footage that I've watched and learned about, I don't think they are. Even with the Lovecraftian element, like, no. And this is some of the earliest CGI. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's not. Toy Story came out before this movie, and Toy Story looks 20 times better. And that's like early CGI. This is like mid 2000s. Like, we had the Hulk, like the original Marvel Hulk movie. Not a great movie, but the CGI in it looks pretty decent. With Spider-Man. By this point, for Christ's sakes. Anyways, so the 713 group, they show up and they just start blasting in this museum. And then afterwards, he's like, well, it's all clear. And it's like, you couldn't have checked before you started just coming in here and shooting up all the artifacts and shit. And that's when we meet Stephen Dorff's character, Commander Burke. Him and Edward used to be partners, are on the same team, and they don't like each other. And Edward steals his little, I got your pass card. And that's how he goes to see Dr. Fish. And then he finds out, oh, I've got one in me too. But I was electrocuted as a kid, so it's not active. I'm A-okay. Can you remove it? Well, it might paralyze you. Oh, guess it's standing there. So then they end up at a compound site or whatever, and that's where the big the door between the realms is. And Christian Slater's got the key, or at least he thinks, because Professor Hudgens has the main part of the key. And there's like, some random scenes of people like, we gotta go in here. Somebody falls down another shaft where there's a spike pit down there, like Mortal Kombat style. And then they climb down there to retrieve his dead body, I guess. And then when they get down there, this pillar starts coming down to crush them. But it's like, it's not even like an enclosed pit. It's just like, it's like a hole leading down to a separate area. So they're just like, okay, we're leaving. But one of the commander's assistants, Chong, I think her name was Chong. Like, okay, like I don't know. I don't know if that was a racial thing by Uwe Boll. I'm not gonna assume anything, but uh, somehow she hurt her leg, and the guy's like, "Does it hurt? Does this hurt?" He's like pushing on her leg and shit. And then of course a bunch of Xenos come through the woods because they can't get the power on. The power went off. And they're alone in the dark. All these shitty CGI dog creature things that make Resident Evil look like a fucking Marlon Brando picture come out of the woods and start attacking. Like, it makes me want to watch what's that movie with the Starship Troopers. There we go. That's got some great CGI too. Oh my gosh. So, anyways, couple other people, the agents or whatever, they go down to where the other people are, and we get one good gore shot in this entire horror movie. One of the guys is like coming around the corner and he sees like a body laying there and like twitching, and he goes over and looks at the head is like split open and she's like bleeding, and it's cool. And then of course it's like they're right behind me, aren't they? So then we get to the door and Christian Slater's about to open it and Tara Reid's like, some doors are better left closed. It's like, yeah, like the door to the theater showing this movie you should never have went and saw. This movie, by the way, guess how much it made? Guess. $12 million. $12 million. There's no words. There's no words. So anyways. So Professor Hudgens shows up and he's like, oh, you can't open the door. I've got the crystal. And he's like pointing the rifle at them and he's like, give me the key. And no, okay. So they give it to him. He puts it in there. And while he's trying to open the door, Commander Burke pulls a knife out and just throws it at him. But I guess it was too late. It opens up. They go in there. And this is like the worst green, blue, whatever color screen you want. That doesn't look good. They go in there and it's like a giant cavern. And they see like a million little CGI shit stains moving in the dark. Like, and he's like, maybe we should leave. Let's back out of here real nice and slow. And the guy like puts a bag on the ground. And you're like, okay, it's a bomb. And they close the door. But then he goes back, grabs the bomb, pulls it out of the room, leaves the door open. And these things are like coming out now. And he's like, oh, I'm going to set it for 5 seconds. I thought he was setting it for 5 minutes. I was like, at least, 2 minutes, maybe 3. Like, throw it in there, close the door. Nope, 5 seconds. And as it's exploding, it's going through all these tunnels. And by the way, they started this mission at night. And then we cut to the orphanage in the middle of the day. And there's like a storm hatch that opens up. And Christian Slater and Tara Reid come wandering out. And they go in the orphanage. And the nun that, she lied and said, all these kids are gone. And, they were being experimented on, which they found the little pods and area they were turning into little sleeper agents, putting these little centipedes into their spines or something. So yeah, they come out and then it's basically like 28 days later. It's like Resident Evil's ending where they're like, we're the only 2 people alive now. There's no one on Earth. Now we gotta fight the Xenos. And it's like, ugh, God damn it. I just spent an hour and 40 minutes watching this. And I forgot to mention, this has the absolute worst soundtrack I've ever heard. Every song that kicked on, I just wanted to smash my head in with a brick. So I'm very upset that I decided to do this because I was hopeful. I was like, you know what? I haven't seen this. I did some research on it, and I was like, ooh, these games are pretty cool. Alone in the Dark kind of inspired Resident Evil. So I was like, maybe if it's a video game movie that I don't know much about, I'll enjoy it. I was wrong! This was the worst. Like, this makes House of the Dead look like gold. That's what we gotta watch next. So, stay tuned. Next week, we're going to be talking about Uwe Boll's House of the Dead. Pray for me. I'll see you then.